Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. We're coming to you from the tallest building in downtown Fort Collins, aka the Synergy Capital of Colorado studio. Today, we have an incredible guest. Mina Muirhead is the co-founder at Facette Medical Spa in Fort Collins, one of Northern Colorado's most recognized full-service medical spas and hair salons. With 27 years of clinical experience, Mina is board-certified family nurse practitioner, a certified aesthetic nurse specialist, and a national trainer for Allergan. Today's conversation is about the woman behind the business, the career, the lady boss lifestyle, and what it really costs to build something in this community and how Mina balances it all. Not only is she a great friend of mine, but an amazing business owner. So we'll get to it. Mina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I'm really glad to be sharing this time with you guys.
Perfect. Well, before we get into the meat of everything, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Oh, okay. So I grew up in Oklahoma, a very small town of about 3,000 people. And I was literally, I think, the sixth or seventh generation of this very small town. And my parents owned a gym and they were teachers. And it was a good place to grow up, but probably not a good place to flourish if you wanted to do something bigger.
And so you said that your parents owned a gym. So that
Mhm.
entrepreneur spirit, did that hit you at a smaller age, or is that something that came later on in life?
No, I think it did make a big influence on me because also my grandfather, who lived in the same town, so as my dad's dad, he owned a donut shop and he also owned the grocery store. So I started working for him when I was 9 years old, and it was such a small town. I could walk from my house to the donut shop, and I got paid $2 an hour, which was kind of the running joke of the family. And I worked there. I would wake up on Saturday mornings, get up at 3 in the morning, walk myself to the donut shop, and work every morning until I was probably 14.
So I have to ask, what's your favorite donut?
Oh, definitely, like, just the regular donut, like, the not
Yes.
the cake one, but just the main donut, but it's pretty cool, right? It's like, I love donuts, and I still have a very fond memory of them.
I love that so much. What did you want to be when you were young? Like, what did you want to be when you grew up?
You know, it's funny because I definitely did not wanna be a nurse. I remember in 3rd grade, we had this teacher who was like, we had to dress up like who we wanted to be when we grew up. And I dressed up like Madonna. I wanted to be like a rock star and a singer. And a friend of mine dressed up as a nurse. And I just remember going like, ugh, why would anybody want to be a nurse? That sounds terrible. I want to be like a star of a show, right? So I think that just came later, the nursing aspect, as I grew up and I learned how much I love anatomy and physiology and caring for people, and so it was just a natural fit.
So help me understand this. Is this Material Girl Madonna or was this earlier
Oh.
Madonna?
No, this is definitely Material Girl. This is like 1980s, like a Virgin, which was like my favorite song, even though I didn't even know what the word meant, right? And I loved her and I just wanted to be like her.
I love everything about that. So from Oklahoma, did you come straight to Colorado after that, or what was the path to get out of Oklahoma?
So my mother got remarried to my stepfather, and he lived in Greeley, Colorado. And so I moved here when I was 16. Of course, when you're 16, you do not want to move from your hometown. You don't want to start over. And I was very obstinate about coming. And within a month of being here, I was like, oh my gosh, Colorado is such a great state. There's so much more things to do. Everybody's really kind and energetic, and there's a lot of outdoor. And I just really felt at home here almost immediately.
And so then going back to the nursing, funny enough story how the universe is small, but Mina was actually the delivery nurse for our youngest daughter. And so what made you jump into nursing?
I think I really thought I was gonna get my master's degree in maybe, like, occupational therapy or something more, and I wasn't for sure what that was gonna be exactly, and so nursing provided me a job with a bachelor's degree. It's as simple as that, and I was like, "Well, I don't wanna do kinesiology or something that's more vague where I'm not for sure if I can get a job," so it was very practical decision to become nurse, and I really enjoyed, the whole process of it.
And so then that takes us into aesthetics.
Mhm.
Even let's call it back in 2005, it wasn't really mainstream career track.
Mhm.
There weren't nearly as many med spas back then as there are now. What had what made that change for you to pivot and go into aesthetics from nursing?
So I worked as a nurse for 10 years at the local hospital, and I did a lot of labor and delivery, as you know, and NICU. And there was a few things that I wanted to do differently. One was I wanted more autonomy. You're very controlled as a nurse in that environment, as you should be. So I wanted something that just gave me a little bit more freedom for my schedule, for how much potential money I could make. That was a big one as well, too. I mean, there were days that I ran so hard and worked so hard. I was like, I deserve double what I'm making right now. And so that was part of it, and it was the freedom, and the flexibility in my schedule. So I didn't love 12-hour shifts. By the time 10 hours was done, I felt like my mind was trashed and I just wanted something different. And so I really just took a leap. And there were not a lot of schools at the time to get an aesthetic license for RNs or what we could do. So what I ended up doing is I went to Florida and I took a Botox course and a laser course and these different things. But actually at first what I started with was just doing the laser course. And then I heard all this vibe about Botox when I was there. And I called my mom and I was like, I think I'm going to stay an extra day and take this Botox course. And my mother was literally like, oh, thank God. And she had already done Botox before it was FDA approved. She was in a study for it and loved it. So she was on the forefront of that whole movement. And then it just became this natural thing. And I wasn't for sure if I was going to like it, but I ended up just really enjoying it.
And look at you now. You're a master injector. Is that a real term?
It's such a lame term. It's the most ridiculous thing, and you can take a course and become a master injector, but everybody else was saying it, and so I felt like if I didn't say it, then I look like I'm somehow behind, but I really do wish actually that there were more, regulations or more of a specific pathway to if you're gonna call yourself a master injector or master esthetician, whatever, that there was a specific way to do that, but there's really not. I'm also a certified aesthetic nurse specialist, and that is a test that you take and courses you can take to keep that up. So that kind of helps. But it is a little bit of a wild, wild west in the aesthetic field for sure.
So someone shouldn't go into the back of their nail salon to get Botox from the person that just did their nails. That's what you're
Nope.
saying.
You should
Okay.
not. You definitely need a medical provider to do any of your injectables and any of your lasers, in my humble opinion.
That's wonderful. So also speaking of titles, you are a national trainer for Allergan,
Mhm.
which means practitioners from all over the country are learning directly from you. Have you always had that bug to teach and lead others, or did that once again come as your career started to flourish and grow, and you created this business?
Yeah, I think it's probably both. I always enjoyed teaching others. And then as I became farther and farther in my career, you always kind of want something more. I never want to feel stagnant and like, well, I've arrived and this is it. And now I'm just going to float on this. I'm not built that way. And I think a lot of people aren't built that way, but I'm definitely not. And so I always want the next new challenge. So about 5 years ago, Allergan asked me to be one of their national trainers. And so I hopped on board with them. And it's been a really rewarding relationship because they give so much, they pour so much into me and my education. And I get to be educated by the top of the top in the whole nation and also the whole world. So I get to pour that into my team. And then I also get to train others around the nation as well, too. Because I really do feel like rising tides raise all ships. I believe that to my core. And so I will train my competitors. I've done that in this town and I feel completely confident and fine with that because I want everybody to have good outcomes.
I think that's really inspiring on all levels of leadership. And speaking of inspiring, when you were a kid or young adult, who inspired you?
That's a good question. I think I think a lot of people probably inspired me. I think my mother inspired me. She was the president of the Chamber of Commerce in our small town, and she also felt like she never wanted to stop growing, and she kind of outgrew the small town that I grew up in, and I that's part of the reason for my parents' divorce and for her moving forward, and it's all in good now. And I think that's somebody that I've always wanted to emulate, and she's always done it with integrity and love and caring for other people.
I love that. So kind of now let's dive into Facette. So you are co-owner, you have two other partners. What made you choose Northern Colorado? Because as you know, Denver has a huge market, a lot of opportunity for possibility. Why did you see the gap here in Northern Colorado, and what made you take the steps to create this business?
I that's multi lots of questions there, and I can answer them all. So I think one of it is I worked for another clinic, and honestly, after working for them for so long, and I was kind of miserable, and I knew I could do better. I just knew I could create a space where we could be successful, and then also too that we can grow people in a positive way. Our industry, typically, the providers work mostly on commission, and so that makes it very competitive between different providers, and so that was the place I came from, and it just didn't feel good. Like, I wanted to create a space where we could be healthy and support each other and love on each other and cheer for each other and our successes while being successful ourselves. So that was kind of the philosophy of opening Facette, and now I forgot the rest of the question.
Oh, no worries. No, why Northern Colorado?
Oh, Northern Colorado, yes. Honestly, I think about that too. Denver, you're right. It's a way bigger market, and I think it's in some ways easier to be successful there, and I've talked about having a clientele there, and I do have a clientele there that sometimes comes to see me here, and sometimes I'll go there at a clinic with a plastic surgeon that I'm friends with. He'll let me use his clinic at any time. But it's home, right? And I love Fort Collins, and I love this area, and I love the people here, and it's this kind of like hidden gem in some ways. I recently got married, and my now husband, moved here about 3 years ago from Golden, and he was like, "I will never leave Golden," and if anybody knows Golden, it's this kind of, like, great place in Denver, everybody wants to be there, and when he moved up here, he kind of wasn't super happy about it. He wanted to be with me, but he didn't wanna leave Golden at the same time. And he just told me actually the other day, he's like, "I love Fort Collins. This is such a great place. The people are so kind here. It's just this wonderful home, great place to raise kids and family."
I love that. That's wifey points right there.
Wife, that's right.
Well, I can say that you have created this experience at Facette. And speaking of it, the name Facette, it kind of feels bougie just saying it. What does it mean? Where did you arrive at that name?
We went through a few different names and it was hard, right? Because your whole business is based off this name. And sometimes quirky names are really successful. Like if you think the word Google, like what a weird word, right? And how would you think the word Google would be successful? But it's such a great word. So, how do you figure that out when you're starting from nothing? And so, the word facette, it comes from French. It's a French word that means like the different sides of the face, the different sides of your personality, and also the cut of a gem. And so we really felt like that resonated with us as far as that beauty of a gem and then also the beauty of someone's face and personality.
Can you tell us one of the runners up of the names that you didn't go with?
There was one that started with an E and it meant like angels or something like that. And I was like, it just didn't sit well with me. So it just didn't, this one resonated a lot. And what was cool is once we found it, we're like, that's it. All three of us felt that way. Like, this is the name for us.
So Google is also a verb. So people are going to Google things. And
Yeah.
so if I need to get these lines worked on, do I go facette? Do I say I need to get facetted?
There ooh, I
I need to
like that.
facette my head.
That's such a great idea, Mike. We need to, like, update that and do that more. You're right.
This is what I'm here for, the nerdy jokes.
But it's a good idea.
Facette me.
I
Oh my
will totally
gosh.
facette you, right?
I dare you to call the office and ask for a facette face appointment.
That might be an HR case that you have to take care of if I do call. So
I love it. So you co-founded this business, and within any partnership, there's a dynamic. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. How do you navigate the times when maybe you and your partners don't see it eye to eye, don't agree on every decision that needs to be made?
Mhm. I'll tell you, there was definitely some hard times, especially at the beginning. One thing that we did within our business was we started using a program called Culture Index. And I'm sure there's different programs similar to that. And what Culture Index does, it basically tells your personality, but in a business sense. And it tells you your strengths and maybe the areas that you're not as strong in. And so, for example, it'd be like, do you like to work with autonomy? Are you more of a group team player? Are you more social or less social? Do you like details? Are you good at details or are you not? And are you fast paced or are you more of like a process thinker? And so when we pulled that into our system, it really changed how we did things, how we hired, but also how we understood each other. And the point of that piece was we figured out that none of us as owners are good at details, which is not a great thing, right? And so we did have to hire an operations person that is good at the details. That was a big jump for us because I don't think we necessarily knew that none of us were good at details. The other thing that helped us as far as making decisions would be with, say, my business partner, Amanda, and both Aaron, they're pretty fast thinkers and they can say, this is the thought, this is the idea, and let's make a decision now. I'm not like that. I'm very much a process thinker. So I need to think through all of the options and ideas and go through everything in my mind, which can take hours or days. So in past situations, I felt pressured to make a decision right then and there, which didn't feel good to me. And sometimes then I felt like I made a decision that wasn't authentic to what I really believed. So that caused some rub and some challenges. And then now I feel like we do a better job of giving each other space of what we're also good at and then how we make decisions too.
Yeah, absolutely. A little different when your co-founder is your husband. It's harder to get space.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, right. And that's a later episode. Well, obviously, I've been talking you up, and that's from. All right, I'm going to start that one over. So, Mina, there's a difference between being excellent at your craft and building a company that can carry beyond just your excellence and your skill, your talent, your longevity in this industry. Where do you feel that transition comes in? Because as an owner, you can't be doing Botox and fillers all the time. And I'm sure you get
Mhm.
requested all the time. So, how do you set the boundary?
That's a great question. And I feel like it's something that we're still working on. I don't feel like we have the perfect way to do that. I will say from the very beginning, I brought in probably most of the income into Facette, and now I'm definitely a smaller percentage. Probably I need to be even less, but it's really mentoring the people that are coming after me and really guiding them and helping them and supporting them in what they need to grow and be successful. Which I think the challenge for me as an owner and a leader is finding out what that is for each individual person, right? Because sometimes it's just confidence that they have great skills, but I just need to build their confidence on that. And then other times it truly is just like the basics of the core education on how do we do this thing? Why do we do it? And repeating that over and over again. So it's not perfect yet, but we're something that we're working on.
So, can you tell when you have maybe it's a new employee that comes in, how long does it take you to decide if it's, maybe they don't have the talent or they just need it polished a little bit?
That I feel like with employees, the process has been in the past with probably a lot of businesses, especially small businesses, where get your resume, the resume looks good, you do an interview, maybe 2 interviews, and then you're like, "This is a great person," and we'll even have them do a culture index, and that helps as well too. But even with that, sometimes it hasn't been a perfect situation, right? We had an employee last year that I poured and we all poured a lot of energy into, and she fit the picture perfectly and she was growing beautifully. And then after 3 years, she's like, I can do this by myself. So I'm just going to go do it. And so, and it just killed me. And it was really heart wrenching how it went down. Not that I wouldn't want her to be successful on her own. It wasn't that. It was just it was done in kind of a little bit of a unfortunate way where she wasn't as open and as honest as she could have, even though we really tell our team we want you to be successful. And if that means without us, we're okay with that as long as it's done in the correct way. And so that was really hard. And then other times, like everybody, they look like the perfect fit, but maybe they need a lot more hand holding than what you realized, right? Or we had, maybe an assistant manager who said she could interview beautifully, right? And she's done assistant managing before. And so we thought she'd be a perfect fit. But again, she wasn't into the details. And so it wasn't quite the right fit for us either. So if I could go back and I would do like have somebody follow for like days and really get a feel and do multiple conversations to feel where their strengths are, where they're going to need assisting, are they really a good fit? And it's a hard one to do.
Well, and you just kind of mentioned if I could go back, now that you've had this successful business for years, what is one business lesson you've learned along the way that you wish every business owner would know from the start, from the get go?
Yeah. And I think it's along those same threads, right? I think Culture Index really did help us because when we were hiring our operations person who's amazing, I don't know if we would have known she was the right fit without that piece of it. But when she took this test, it really did say like she's into the details. But if you're a good interviewer, like I could be a great interviewer and you could say, like, Mina, do you like details? I'd be like, absolutely, I love details. And I might truly believe it, but then you get me to do a spreadsheet and I'm just like, "Ooh, this is a lot and I'm not really great at this." And so it's trying to figure that out, trying to really figure out what you need and what type of personality you need and what skills you need, and then being able to build off of that, I think is going to be really important because mostly when you're first building a business, you're hiring on just personality. Like, I like this person, they have this education, so let's go for it. And that may or may not be a good fit.
I'm going to throw kind of a curveball question in, but AI is invading a lot of spaces in a
Mhm.
ton of industries. Your industry is very, very hands-on, but do you see or has AI come into to Facette to assist in any way? And do you see that coming in further to help out, build your business, grow it? How do you see AI in your industry?
Yeah. The lucky for us, I don't feel like AI can take our jobs because it is so personality and it's hands on and it's healthcare, you know? And so that's the good piece about it. So right now we are using AI. We're using it for our Google searches. We're using it. I forgot the terminology. I'm sure you guys would probably know, but instead of SEOs, it's the AI kind of search. What is that called? Do you know,
I know
Mike?
exactly what you're talking about, but I too cannot remember the term.
Yeah, there's the term for it. So we're using more of that. I feel like it's already been helpful. I've had a couple of clients come to me and they actually said, like, I go, "How did you find me?" And they'll say Google, but then they'll actually say, "Well, is actually Gemini or is actually like, Claude or Chat GPT that?" And so I've been trying to do that myself. Like, how do I make that even more so? And from what I understand, it's really, I have to pour a lot of information about, say, like myself or my business into those uh, different chats and whatnot and different programs so that they can understand who we are and what we are. And they get their information. So that's kind of my rough understanding of it. But then we also, it's really helpful for like building policy and procedures and all those things that just take a lot of time and a lot of energy that you do not want to spend your time and energy doing. So that is helpful for us right now. It is.
Yeah, when you're building the business, there's a lot to the governance side of it. How do you build this enterprise to outlast you? And to do that, you've got to
Yes.
get what's in your mind, all the processes that you know intrinsically, you've got to get that into some sort of documentation. And
Hmm.
like the facet way, we have the synergy
Hmm.
way, but I'm sure there's a facet way. And in fact, I'm just going to ask you, what is the facet way versus say others that are in the area?
Yeah, and I think it's that with what you're talking about specifically, like the policies and procedures, is being consistent. So that's what's really helpful for us is that every provider will you'll have a little bit of a different experience with, like, someone will have a different personality than I do, and you might fit with them better. But in the bigger picture, you want to have the same experience. You want to have the same results and the same outcome with any of our providers. So that's part of it. And then as far as the facade way, it's that luxury piece of it as well too, right? We really it's you're not a number. You're not going to go in and out and we're just like going to do your Botox really quick or we're going to do your treatment really quick and you're out. It really is about loving on you, like having you be a part of our family and our home and also elevating that experience into a luxury idea, which is all about the details as we know. Anytime we go to a luxury hotel or resort, we know the difference, right? They know your name. They know what you like, what drink you like, how you like things a certain way, or what kind of meals, or what your allergies are, right? Those types of things are really important. And so we really try to transfer that type of luxury experience that you would see from, like, say, a Four Seasons into what Facette is. Like, we know you personally.
Yeah, I think those little touches matter. Mike and I were at this resort and they had 8 little tiny pillows that had the different types of firmness that you could request for your pillow. So, those little details, those
Yeah.
little personality kind of inserts, I think make a business, stand out and be different from other med spas in the area.
For sure.
Couple more questions for you, more about balancing life. You're an independent woman. You're a mom. You're a wife. You're a co-founder. You actually have your own podcast. How do you best decide where to put the energy on a given day with all of those roles?
Fingers crossed. I'm gonna put my energy here. No, it's you have to be intentional, right? And so with what I'm trying to work on is not constantly problem solving and not constantly trying to like digging into the weeds of things, right? And so I'm not a weed digger anyway, naturally. I'm a big picture thinker. And so but when you're running a business, a lot of it is the weeds, right? A lot of it is like, you've got to get this done and you got to, all these like little details. And you could drive yourself crazy thinking about all that and doing your to do list. So, what I'm personally trying to work on really is being present in my day to day life and also being very intentional with how I spend my time, how I spend my energy. And is this time and energy that I'm spending moving something forward, whether that's an employee? Is it supporting my family? Is it helping a client, get to that next level? All those types of things is what I'm really trying to focus on. And it's hard. It's easy just to go, I'm a checklist girl. I love it. Like checklist, check, check, check. Got it all done today. I'm successful. But in the big picture, that doesn't make me feel successful on the daily.
And so, kind of a vulnerable question, what has building this business done to family life?
Mm. Actually, I think it's okay. I think I've always worked hard even before I had this business, and I've always been mindful of that as well too. And I think there was a study a while ago that said, kids actually prefer it when their moms work, at least if it's part-time versus a stay-at-home mom. And I think that's just because the mom probably feels more fulfilled as well too, and the kids probably have a little bit more independence. So one thing I did do is with my kids growing up, I didn't have a big social life and a big life outside of just work. I didn't have like big hobbies that took a lot of time, those types of things, because I felt like any of my free time really truly did belong to my kids. And so, as soon as I always wanted to get my NP, I've been an RN for 27 years. And so, as soon as my youngest went to college, that's when I immediately also enrolled to get my NP and get my master's degree because I always wanted to. And so, one, I was really nervous that I was going to be like sad and lonely. And so, without her, so I filled my time that way. But also, I didn't do it before because I didn't feel like that was fair to them and not spend as much time as I could with the free time that I had.
Mina, for those that don't know what an NP is, could you tell them?
Yeah, so it's a nurse practitioner, and so I'm a family nurse practitioner is my degree, and so that means that I can, care for patients as a provider. Like I can prescribe, I can diagnose, I can do those things. Now, how do I use it is really not in the traditional sense, but that is the degree. But it gives me a lot more well rounded when I'm dealing with more complex patients or clients. It helps me to understand any like adverse reactions or side effects and it also helps in my own education to other providers too.
One thing, talking about family, I remember when you launched, and I was super proud of you, still super proud of you. But I remember it was a family affair launching. It was you painting, it was the kids in there. It was just work. And anybody that's launched a business knows what's involved with getting it off the
Yes.
ground. And so they were involved early, so they knew.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and my daughter, like, they helped do the tile, and my husband, put the, cabinets on the wall, and we all painted, and we all did all the things, so you're absolutely right, it was a full family, and not just mine, my 2 business partners, their families worked on it as well too, because we didn't have a lot of money. It's not we hired a general contractor, but anything that we could do ourselves, and he was flexible with that, we did, because, like, every dollar counted, and so it wasn't like we had unlimited funds to make it the most beautiful and the most expensive luxury place we could, so
Absolutely. So, last question here, kind of a two-part question. So, I'll start with the first one. If you could give yourself advice back when you started Facette, knowing what you know now, what would that advice be?
I think it would be to trust myself more. I feel like I knew my strengths and I knew the areas that I didn't know very well. And part of the reason, like Amanda is one of my business partners, is because she knew business and I really felt like I didn't. But at the same time, I would have asked more questions. When I didn't understand something, I would have dug into it more right from the beginning and not just been like, gosh, I don't know if I understand that. And so I don't want to ask because I feel, dumb and I should know that. And so I would have just asked all the questions to begin with and really understood all the processes and why we make the decisions that we do. So now I feel like sometimes I have to back up and be like, okay, I know that happened 3 years ago and I should really know this, but I don't because I didn't ask the questions then.
And so, second part to that question, in high school or junior high, you would write a letter to your future self. And some of it was who you are now, where you expect you'd be. So, this is the letter to yourself. Let's say, we are in real time recording this podcast now. What do you want to tell your future self?
Mm, I like that. I think, again, I feel like it's the trusting of yourself too. I feel like it's you deserve this and you've worked really hard and you've gotten to this place in your life which feels good and comfortable and it's successful. But just because you have this doesn't mean that you can't have more. Right. I want this and I appreciate this and I'm so grateful for this. And now I want more. And I think at some point you're like, I should just feel really happy and content that I'm here. And everybody's like, good job, Mina, and patting me on the back. And that feels great and wonderful, but doesn't mean that I can't do something bigger. And so that's kind of like where I am now. Like, what's next for me? And I think that feels good when I allow myself to think big and not think small because it's easy to kind of hold yourself back and think small. And I'm working at changing that for myself.
I love that. Well, once again, thank you so, so much. Cheers to you. Cheers to Facette
Thank you.
and all of the future success. So tell everyone who's listening where they can connect with you, find Facette, how they can get a hold of you.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Mina_nurse_injector or at Facette Medical Spa as well on Instagram. And you can look us up on Google
On Gemini as well.
and Gemini too.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Mina. We appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tracy and Michael. And most importantly, thank you for listening to the Untapped Synergy podcast. We ask you to share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review because this actually helps others find the show. Again, thank you for listening. And for Tracy and Michael, I'm RJ Malik, and we'll see you at the next Untapped Synergy podcast. Thanks for listening to Untapped Synergy. For more episodes, insights, and tools to help you lead with confidence, be sure to follow the show and visit us at synergy-colorado.com. For personalized guidance or to start a conversation, give us a call at 970-837-3088. Keep leading boldly. We're here to support your next step. The information presented in this podcast is the opinion of Synergy Capital and does not reflect the view of any other person or entity. The information provided is believed to be from reliable sources, but no liability is accepted for any inaccuracies. This is for information purposes and should not be construed as an investment recommendation. Past performance is no guarantee of future performance. You should consult your tax and/or legal advisors before implementing any transactions and/or strategies concerning your finances. Synergy Capital is an investment advisor registered with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission.